It must have been absolutely mystifying to those who knew me at this and earlier stages of my development. Trust me, no one ever would have voted Tamara Mellon most likely to succeed. Vogue House is in Hanover Square near Oxford Circus, which is just across Hyde Park from Chester Square, where, in 1995, I lived in the basement of my parents' house. London real estate, especially in Belgravia, is ridiculously expensive, and the large houses usually have staff apartments that the older generation makes available to their less affluent adult children. My rather dodgy quarters had a separate entrance with a door that connected to the main house, which I always tried to keep locked. This modest attempt at privacy drove my mother nuts. Then again, my mother was unwell, which is a polite way of saying that she had severe emotional problems exacerbated by alcoholism, and though she was sober at this point, she was still not getting the help she needed. Then again, it may be that my mother was, and still remains, beyond help. Certainly, she has always been the most painful warp in the loom of my life. My very first memory is, in fact, of her throwing me across the bed and my hitting my head on a radiator. Had I spilled something? Made too much noise? All I remember is being so stunned that the pain took a moment to register, and then her loving words, "You're not hurt. You didn't even start crying until I came over." My mother's alcoholic rants, deliberate cruelties, and all-around raging lunacy was the bane of my childhood. But during the period of the Belgravia basement, her greatest perversity was in watching me follow the same path of chemical dependency and never saying a word. For several years, I'd been what you could call a functioning addict. When I wasn't going out to clubs, I was falling asleep at 8 p.m., but it wasn't like ordinary sleep. What I did each night at home was a variation on passing out. Then the next morning I'd get up and drag myself into work. If my child were living like that, I think I might have had something to say. And it wasn't as if my mother was completely indifferent to my existence. Whenever I was out, she would go down to my room and search through my things, and then make inappropriate comments to others about whatever she had found. I was with my boyfriend's family once at their house in France, and his father said to me, "Is it true that your mother has to go down and tidy up your underwear drawer?" Cedric Middleton, the boyfriend, worked in finance, but that aside, he wasn't the typically pale and priggish English public school boy. Cedric had gone to school in Switzerland, which is where the people who can afford it go when they can't quite navigate a place like Eton or Harrow. He had an edge to him. Cedric came from a lower aristocratic family and lived just around the corner, also in the basement of his parents' home. It really was quite the fashion. A few years younger than I, he was handsome and tall with floppy brown hair, and he was really a lot of fun. We hung around with a crowd that was similarly favoured by genealogy: Lucas White, Lord White's son, Emily Oppenheimer, whose family once owned most of the diamonds in South Africa, Tara Palmer-Tompkinson, goddaughter to Prince Charles, and all-purpose it-girl Tamara Beckwith, now a fixture in the British tabloids. Our nocturnal habitat ranged from L'Equipe Anglaise in Marylebone to Tramp on Jermyn Street, a private club that had been around since swinging London in the 60s. Johnny Gold, the owner, had played host to everyone, from Sinatra and the Beatles to Lindsay Lohan and Dodi Fayed. He'd even known my father back in the day, when Dad owned a similar venue and was still quite the man about town. By the time I'd reached the end of my career as a fashion editor, being fabulous on the dance floor but never quite sure of my exact whereabouts had become more trouble than it was worth. I had given my all to dissipation, and now, in a predictable twist to the unsavory plot, I was unemployed. The only reason I'd been living unhappily under my parents' roof was because, on a Vogue salary, I couldn't afford to move out. Now I had no salary at all. lounging in my subterranean lair in the days just...
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.